The idea seems to be that if the House GOP refuses to raise the debt ceiling, a default crisis or gradual government shutdown will ensue, and the public will turn en masse against Barack Obama. The Republican House that failed to raise the debt ceiling would somehow escape all the blame. Then Democrats would have no choice but to pass a balanced budget amendment and reform entitlements, and the Tea Party hobbits could return to Middle-earth, having defeated Mordor.
There's another old saying, Senator. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
And it worries Donald Trump a great deal. The real estate maverick and TV titan joins me right now on the phone. Donald, we could be going into a double dip at the time this country could be going into a potential government shutdown, huh?
Well, the country is doing very poorly. The country is being laughed at all over the world. Nobody knows what's happening over here. I have friends in Europe and in various other places. They call me. They go, are they for real? The politicians, what's going on is absolutely unbelievable. And we have no leadership at the top. Obama is not leading. He's sitting back. He's not leading. He's not doing anything. And it's really very sad. One thing, the Republicans, they're out there, they're trying to straighten things out. They may not be getting along so well with each other, frankly, but they want the proper solution, and the only solution is a big solution. At least they're trying to get the big solution.
What do you think of the Tea Partiers who John McCain now has started criticizing for holding this process hostage? In other words, insisting that they don't give any on the spending issue, certainly don't even entertain tax hikes of any sort, whether you call them tax hikes or not, that they are holding this system back. What do you make of that?
Neil, I absolutely love the Tea Partiers. They've made the people in Washington think for the first time in many years. They're doing the right thing because they have to get, 2 years ago, you didn't know what the word trillion meant, and now all of a sudden that's all you hear. You don't hear billions anymore, you hear trillions. We're going to soon owe $15 billion. Forget the 14. That 14 is like obsolete now after a couple of months. We're going to soon be over $15 trillion.
So would you take this deal, either the deals that are on the table right now? One calls for cutting spending or at least slowing spending. I always forget that. We're actually talking about slowing the growth of spending by about
that's really, they're not talking about
trillion. You're absolutely right. So which of these deals, as they stand now, would you accept, or would you reject both of them?
Well, the deal that I want is a balanced budget so that over a period of time we can become great again. But the interesting thing, and it's really amazing that it's not spoken of until, it's just incredible. Other countries are eating our lunch. We need the economy to come back, and all of a sudden, these numbers, they sort of disappear, and they can disappear quickly. We should be making the money that China is making. We should be making the money that OPEC is making.
So what do you make of China then? All right, Donald, but what do you make of China then jumping ugly on us, saying the donkey and the elephant, to paraphrase a Chinese editorial today, they're making a mockery of this process, and they're all but hinting that they're not going to be buying stuff in the future.
They have absolutely no respect for us, and they're buying very little of what we have right now. If you look at the difference between what we buy from them, it's a joke, and now they come out with editorials, let's not buy the little remnant that we're buying. They're making our products, they're manipulating their currency, they're making it impossible. The fact is their leaders are much smarter than our leaders, and if we could make our economy work, all of this with balancing the budget would take care of itself, Neil. And I don't hear it. I watch your show, I watch other shows. I never hear anyone saying that. They talk about cutting, and I think cutting is absolutely important because the waste is unbelievable. But the best thing of all is if you could get the economy going again, and you can't do that when OPEC and China and others are ripping this country to shreds.
Through taxes and other sources of revenue. And that means that in order to meet its bills at the end of every month, it needs to borrow $120 billion. Now, for much of the history of this country, there have been increases in the debt limit and the ability to borrow money. But what has happened over the last few years is that it's no longer a routine vote, because the people who give us our credit rating are saying too much of the money that you spend every month is borrowed. And we want you to show us how over the next 10 years you are going to borrow less as a percentage of what you spend. And so that's why for years, where the debt limit was a routine vote, it no longer can be. It's not something that was made up in some conservative think tank, But the reality that we cannot continue to borrow 40 to 41% of every penny that the government spends has brought us to this point. So you would think that seeing that, our government and our leaders here in both parties would react to that immediately and work on it. And I've heard a lot of talk today about delaying tactics and delaying votes. I would argue to you that this issue has been delayed at least for the last 2.5 years. In the 2 years before I even came here, neither this chamber neither proposed nor passed a budget. It's a startling figure that for the last 2 years this government has operated without a budget.
Order in chamber, please. Continue.
So think about that. 2 years have gone by without a budget. The first 2 years that the president was the president, no budgets. Some people would say, well, you know, that's because partisanship in Washington. Well, that's not true. In the 2 years before I got here, both the House and the Senate were controlled by members of the Democratic Party, which are the president's party. In fact, in this chamber, for at least one of those 2 years, 60 votes, 60 out of the 100 members here caucused with the Democrats. And as you recall, on Christmas Eve of the year 2009, they were able to pass a health care bill that was very controversial because they had the 60 votes in the president's party. So for 2 years, no budget. In fact, you know how long it's been since this chamber has proposed a budget? Forget passed a budget. Proposed a budget? 822 days. That's a long time. A lot of things have happened in the last 822 days, but proposing a budget is not one of them out of this chamber. So then I got here, and we got here in January. 7 months have passed, still no budget. Again, not budget passed, proposed, offered. Here's our budget, still no budget. 822 days, and every single day that I've been here. Now, in the last 7 days, on this debt debate, we have finally seen a proposal from the esteemed senator from Nevada, the majority leader. You would think, has he brought it to the floor to vote? Not until last night. So, again, offered a proposal over the weekend, and still, for 6 days, we sat around, and what did we do around here? Nothing. It was never brought to a vote. You would think these issues would have been worked on in January, February, March. Nothing. This chamber has done nothing. You talk about delay tactics. They've been delaying for 2.5 years. Now, the president doesn't have the luxury of some of these things. He has to propose a budget by law, and he did. Let me tell you how ridiculous the budget was. Not a single member of this Senate voted for it, including the Democrats. It is a budget that didn't lead with a debt limit. In fact, it increased the debt. That's how absurd the budget was. Where's the president's plan? We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. Here's the president's plan, a blank sheet of paper. He doesn't have a plan. He hasn't offered a plan. Again, if this was a Republican president, I would say the same thing. I do not understand how an issue of this magnitude, of generational importance, the President of the United States has not offered a plan. If someone has seen the President's plan, please send it to me, because no one else has seen it. It does not exist. So this has been the plan all along, by the way. The plan all along was not to take a position, to let the days count down until we got to this point with 72 hours to go, and then force a vote on something that they wanted. I believe that that has been the plan the entire time. And you can see it carrying itself out. And you want to know why people all across America get grossed out by politics? Is by watching this kind of stuff happen. And instead, let me tell you what we've seen over the last few days. First of all, today, and for much of this time, I've heard all these attacks and name-calling. I've heard, if we had $1 billion for every time that I hear the word Tea Party extremist, we could solve this debt problem. So all this name-calling. So I said, well, let me read some quotes about this debt limit. And I found some pretty extremist quotes. Here's one. Let me read you what it says. The fact that we are here today to debate raising America's debt limit is a sign of leadership's failure. America has a debt problem and a failure of leadership. Americans deserve better. I, therefore, intend to oppose the effort to increase America's debt limit. A quote from a Tea Party extremist, right? No. This is a quote from March 16th of 2006 from Senator Barack Obama of Illinois. I found another extremist quote. This one says, because this massive accumulation of debt was predicted, because it was foreseeable, because it was unnecessary, because it was the result of willful and reckless disregard for the warnings that were given and for the fundamentals of economic management, I am voting against the debt limit increase. Well, that must be from a Tea Party extremist member of the House, right? No. This is March 16, 2006, from Senator Joe Biden of Delaware. And last but not least, here's a quote from September 27th of 2007. It says, "I find it distasteful and disturbing to increase the debt limit yet again. Clearly we need to change course, and this debt limit bill is just another reminder of that." And that is from the distinguished senator from Nevada, the majority leader, on that date in 2007.